Before you can install Eclipse, you must make sure that you have at least a Java runtime environment installed on your computer, if not the full Java development kit. And you can get either one of those from the oracle.com website that you see in my browser here. Now, if you scroll down on this page, you'll be able to download the full JDK or a JRE. If you're using this with our textbooks, I would recommend that you in fact download and install the Java Development Kit, the JDK. The current release is now for Java SE 8, which was just released in March of 2014. With our books, you can choose to use either Java SE 8 or Java SE 7. So if you want the SE 8 version, you'll work from this portion of the page. And if you scroll down, you can see that you can also download the current Java SE 7 version as well. Now, once those are installed, and you'll want to make sure you follow carefully the installation instructions linked from this page, then you can go to the eclipse.org/downloads site, and that's where you can download various versions of the Eclipse IDE. So first of all, if I scroll down just a little bit here, you'll see that there's a version called the Eclipse IDE for Java developers, and that's the primary version that you would use with our Java How to Program and Java SE 8 for Programmers textbooks. As you can see here, it's showing the Windows downloads because I happen to be recording this video on a Windows computer. However, you can click this down arrow here to see the Linux and Mac OS versions as well and download the IDE for those platforms. Now, when you're downloading Eclipse, what you're going to get is a zip file or an archive file that you simply need to extract onto your computer wherever you want the file to be placed. In the case of a Mac, you may drag it, for example, into your applications folder. In my case, I extracted the folder into my C drive in a subfolder called Eclipse, and this is the contents of that folder on my Windows system. Regardless of which platform you're running on, once you've downloaded and installed, or I should say extracted Eclipse, you'll have this icon here, which is the icon for the executable for Eclipse on your platform. And once you've extracted it, you can double click that file to launch the IDE. Now, before I go into what's going on the screen here, let's go back over to the web browser, and I just want to point out this link here for the Java 8 support. At the time of this video recording, Eclipse Kepler 4.3.2 is the current release of Eclipse. They are working on a new release that has Java 8 support built in from the get-go, which is under the developer builds. However, you can add Java 8 support to the Eclipse Kepler release after you've installed it. Simply click this link here and then follow the instructions that they provide to add Java 8 capabilities to the Kepler version of the Eclipse IDE. So going back over to the Workspace Launcher window, when you first launch Eclipse, this window will be presented to you. A workspace is basically a group of projects that you're working on and all of the settings for the IDE. So, for example, Eclipse has what we call different perspectives that arrange the windows within the IDE different ways. And if you're working on Java programming, the windows that you want on the screen might be different from what you would want on the screen if you were doing web development or Android application development, etc. So a workspace is where your projects will get stored, and by default it will create a folder called Workspace in your user account folder for whatever platform you happen to be working on. So I'll just use the default workspace and click OK. Now, when you load up Eclipse for the first time, you'll be presented with the welcome window, and if you hover over the different icons, you'll see that they give you an overview page where you can learn more about the features of the IDE, find out what's new in this version, and as you go around, there's some sample code and tutorials, and then you can go to the workbench, which is actually the set of windows where you'll do your development. You can either click this icon to do that, or you can simply close the welcome window. And by the way, if you ever need to get back there, you can get to it via the Help menu. Now, in order to match up with the way we present our source code, you're probably going to want to be able to view line numbers in the text editor and also configure your tab settings in the source code. And those things can be configured through the Preferences option in the window menu on Windows and on Linux. And if you're on Mac OS X, then in the Eclipse application menu, there will be a Preferences option where you can access this menu item. So when you select Preferences, to be able to configure the tab settings, you can just search for that where it says type filter text here. So I'll type tab. And as I type tabs, you can see that one of the categories is text editors, which is the one that we need not only for configuring tabs, but also for telling the editors to use line numbers for readability. So you can see the show line numbers feature right here, which I checked off in my IDE already. Also, I changed the tab width, the displayed tab width, to 3 spaces, and I indicated that I wanted to insert spaces for tabs. I prefer to use spacing for my tabbing in my source code files. That also has to do with our authoring processes when we take the source code and paste it into a textbook file, because tabs work differently in different types of text editors. So that's all you need to do, and then once you've configured your tabs, you can go ahead and click OK, and remember again to check off show line numbers as well.